your wife's story and her kind of looking around her and being like, what world am I in right now? Is, I think, the experience of a lot of racialized white people right now.
Mhm.
When I first started doing my round robin discussions on race that I host on Zoom, a professor at a North Carolina university came, and I always have people tell me, oh, what brings you, to the conversation? And he was saying about how, I'm sure you're familiar with the Confederate statues and all of the
Oh yeah.
controversy about that. And there was a big situation for one of the statues here in North Carolina.
Oh yeah. Right.
And he went to a meeting about it. And, you know, it's, he said, I started looking around. People are standing up and saying things, people I know, people I've worked with, people I thought I knew. And he's just looking around left and right, head on a swivel, just being like, what, where am I right now? What is this? This is the place I've been at for all these years, knowing these people who, what, and he was shocked. And, for you and I who, have all of these experiences throughout the course of many decades, right? Like, and we can't really escape them per se. It's impossible for us not to know that aspect of the world, the racial toxicity aspect of the world that we're existing in. And even if you try to ignore it, which many Black people choose to do, right? Like they choose to pretend like it doesn't exist. They pretend like, they're somehow separate from it, or, that they're somehow an exception to the rule or whatever, like people tell themselves all kinds of stories about, their place in racial hierarchy and what it means to them or whatnot. But like most of us have to come to terms with, like you said before, the truth. And the truth of racial hierarchy is dehumanization and false elevation. So that truth becomes impossible. Like, I mean, you working as a trader, I'm sure you saw all kinds of, and you even mentioned it during this conversation, false elevation of racialized white people. I think one person you were like, oh, like this person didn't know what they were doing. Or you were like, oh, this guy was supposed to be teaching me, but I was teaching him, like this is a commonplace phenomenon that any Black person who has any skills, who rises to any level of success in any context will end up experiencing this. So yeah, it's just, I think it's just harder to allow something like this to slip through the cracks when you have a life experience as a person racialized at the bottom of that hierarchy, where people need to keep you there at the bottom, in order to maintain it, right? Black people have to be at the bottom for white people to justify their superiority. And that's how the hierarchy was set up. That's how this pyramid works. So when you start making waves, when you start making $1 million, when you start elevating yourself to a certain level, people are like, well, now you're hitting a nerve. You're hitting a nerve that's so deep in me, I may not even know it's there, and now we're here. And I think it's become a lot more clear to people that this world is still full of a lot of racial toxicity that's fueled by the same racial hierarchy that fueled the segregation that you grew up in partially, and that my father grew up in, and that, stopped us from recognizing our shared humanity by putting us in different swimming pools, by putting us in different schools, by putting us in different neighborhoods, by making sure we don't drink out of the same cups or the same fountains, that dehumanization, maybe we're not legislating it anymore, but there's so many millions of people who have never let go of those sentiments, of those ideas, and just kind of let them simmer in the background until, as many of my biracial people will tell me, they get in private and they think somebody is safe. And that's where, the floodgates can open. But that is the world that we're in. That's still the world that we're in.
Well, now DEI is the new N word.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of late, this whole conversation of merit is driving me. I'm telling you, man.
I was literally thinking about it today.
I have started 2 or 3 articles, and it's like just stream of consciousness. And I'm like, you know what? This, I'm not even making sense now. This is just belligerent. I got to just stop. And I mean, because how, as my grandmother used to say, how can you fix your mouth to talk to me about merit? Right. And DEI being a problem in that regard. At the same time, that you're putting a TV host in charge of the Defense Department, right? I mean, it's just.
And there's so many examples.
I know.
I always say he's the shining beacon of white supremacy because of that, because like, look where he got, look how he got there. Like, I mean, there's no reasonable argument for meritocracy after this has happened, like it is the perfect counterexample.
Yeah. So yeah, it's and you never really hear, where they say so and so is a DEI hire. It's never a white person.
Nope.
They know we know it. They know it's not a white. So it's just a stand-in for what maybe they really want to say.
Yeah, although you get on social media these days and people are saying whatever they want, right? Like,
oh yeah, so. I think it was on Substack. I'm on Substack Notes. I mean, I still have a Twitter account, but it's just a placeholder really to keep somebody from impersonating me on Twitter. But I think it was within 24 hours of the last presidential election that somebody called me a nigger on Substack. And I was like, wow, he actually wrote it down. Yeah. And it has happened a couple of times since. But it was like that was the opening bell. All bets are off. And yeah, I was like, whoo, okay. So we're doing that now. Right.
Again.
I mean, and what are you going to do? I just block them and go on to the next thing.
Of course, still, yeah. I mean, I
took a screenshot. I was like, wow, okay, this is really something. And, of course, these platforms don't want to regulate anything or moderate anything because, free speech, right? And so.
Well, that's not the reason why, right?
That's another conversation altogether, I suppose.
But we have Elon Musk in charge of Twitter, right? Like, and you can very clearly track the racism that he literally injected into the site. Like,
oh yeah. That's why I had to leave. I did a guest lecture at the at UNCW a few months ago, and the topic that I discussed was misinformation and disinformation. And it was really interesting. It was a couple of classes of B school students, international business. And I talk for 45 minutes and open it up for questions. The only pushback that I got from anyone, most people had just general questions. What do you think about this, that, or the other? The only pushback that I got was that now keep in mind, this was before the election and before Elon Musk became so overt in terms of his involvement. And I said that he was the biggest purveyor of misinformation on the internet. And someone challenged me on it. And I'm like, where's that person now? I want to find that person because, they were, well, that's just free speech. And he's just an advocate for free speech. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, now you have video of him doing a Nazi salute twice. So thanks for watching. For access to the full-length conversation and all of the 2-hour-long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support and see you next time.